Cross-court pass to Trey Smith. Trey from downtown, got it. Wants a screen, he'll go the other way. Find A.O. Aaron from downtown, got it. The Moose is loose.
Mid-center court with Charlie Ernst on 88.3 WLFC.
Tommy, left side, little stutter step, driving the lane, scoop the hoop in the left hand, got it again. High ball screen, back top of the key, backdoor pass ahead, and slam it home. Alex White, that's his second slam.
Join Coach Ernst and the Oilers on-air team as they take a look back at the week that was, discuss what's happening around the conference, and preview the week ahead.
Oilers win it, and what a game here in Croy, and a tremendous victory for the Orange and Black.
And now, let's join men's basketball head coach Charlie Ernst and the voice of Oiler basketball, Jason Granger.
Hello and welcome to Center Court with Charlie Ernst. I'm Jason Granger, and right now talking with Coach Charlie Ernst. And Coach, what a Thursday! And you mentioned that back, it seems like it's been a couple weeks ago now, but we had to go on the road, and we had to go to Hillsdale. We got to go to Lake Erie. We still got 2 more road games that we'll talk about later. But 2 down and 2 wins, and this was a big win on the road.
Well, anytime you can get a road win, any place you go in this league, or any Division II league for that matter, it's a good win. And Lake Erie's program just gets a little bit better each and every year. And they're having a very good year. They've played a tough schedule, played a lot of good non-conference opponents, and so while their overall record, I think, is like 15-9 now, I think they're 10-6 in the conference. That's a quality win for us. So to sweep them is really big, not only in our league but in the region. It wouldn't appear that way to a lot of people, but when you really dig into the nuts and bolts of those wins, it was a really good win for us.
It sure was, and you did it with your defense. I thought the defense was outstanding. I know that Kennard got his. I mean, he got 24 points and he made some big shots. But I thought you did a really good job of taking care of and making his shots tough, taking care of the other players on the floor, and then rebounding the basketball.
Well, I think Trey Smith's value to this basketball team was shining bright on Thursday night at Lake Erie because Gabe Kennard is kind of their guy. Lake Erie's a team that hangs their hat on the defensive end, whether that's holding teams to a low number of points or, as importantly, forcing turnovers that they can turn into runouts. And they had a number of those against us. But in the quarter court, they rely, I feel like almost 65% of their offense is around the talents of Gabe Kennard. And it's not just his scoring, but his assisting. And then even when he misses shots, a lot of times they're going to the rim, and then your bigs come over to help contest. And now their offensive rebounders are there. So a big part of stopping them, I feel like, is guarding him. And I thought Trey did a real nice job. He scored 20-some points, but he had to take 25 shots to get it. He actually did not have a very good shooting night. I think that was first and foremost on the defensive end, was containing him. And secondly was defensive rebounding. And, we out-rebounded them this game. And so I think those two things coupled together were real important in what we did on defense.
Baskets were hard to come by, but I thought that there was a couple critical stretches. I thought Alex's play in the first half was big, but then Chaz in the second half, I think he had off 6 straight points, and in a time where I felt like momentum maybe was starting to shift, and I thought those two guys really carried the way offensively.
Well, yeah, I mean, Chaz's contributions were huge because they were in the second half. We were in foul trouble. Both of our fives had 3 fouls early in the second half, and so we were just trying to kind of milk our way through that middle 10 minutes of the second half. And, sometimes when you're playing cautiously or you're playing with a lineup that's a little different than what you're used to, it's hard to have rhythm on offense. And sometimes that's when one guy can make a big difference. And I thought that's exactly what Chaz did. He took advantage of his matchup. Coaching staff called his number on an ISO play, and he delivered a tough finish. That gave him confidence. And then the next 2 times down the floor, he just went ahead and made a play within the offense. Nothing was called specifically for him, but I think he felt confident in the matchup he had. They weren't quick shots. They were within our flow. But I think it showed a lot of maturity and confidence on his part, to make those plays in a tough situation and getting us that little lead. obviously proved to be pretty important coming down the stretch.
And it's interesting when as the season goes on, different players you start to trust in different situations. And I think you have two guys that are starting to really come forward. Anthony Master-Lasco on the offensive end is starting to be a really tough matchup with his ability to drive the basketball. And, I know Devin only had 2 points, I think, in this game, but he had 5 rebounds. But his ability as well to kind of catch the block on the elbow and use that quick first step, those two guys are becoming a tough matchup.
Well, they are, and they're very similar. Anthony's a little more mature in terms of his experience in our program. He probably, at this stage, a little more confident shooter. But nonetheless, they're both very good drivers. They both get fouled a lot. They're both, Anthony really picked up his defensive rebounding in that game, which was good to see because I've been on him about being more of a defensive rebounder for us. We're a team and a pro. We've been on sort of a roll from a rebounding standpoint. I think about 3 weeks ago, or certainly a month ago, I think we were 3rd or 4th from the bottom in the GMAC in rebounding margin, which is not where we want to be or should be, especially starting 2 bigs. But we had really made an emphasis, and it was not just a team emphasis. There were certain individuals we felt like we needed more from, and Anthony being one of them, and really Chaz and Devin being 2 other guys because our bench is playing a lot of minutes. And so, now when you look at the conference stats, I think we're either 3rd or 4th overall in rebounding margin, which means we've made a huge leap over the last 3 to 4 weeks. And that's certainly a credit to a lot of the guys, that have picked it up on the defensive end of the floor, and I think Anthony's one of them.
We've talked a lot about leadership with your 2 seniors this year, and a lot of times I get to sit right down next to the bench when calling the games, and I continue to see great leadership from Alex and Trey, and I think that's something that's starting to make this team special. There was a time during the ball game where things got a little rough. I think we gave up a couple offensive rebounds, and it was those 2 guys that were talking. I heard Trey slap somebody, say, "Go to the," you always go to the glass, and I think when you start to get that type of leadership from a team, and especially your seniors, guys really start to respond.
Well, I think our 2 seniors are very well respected by their teammates. And I think the other piece of that, Jason, is we don't have too many. Sometimes you can have too many, and I don't know that I'd say last year we had too many seniors. But now you have information coming from a lot of places. And I think because we just have 2 seniors, they've both been a part of this program for 4 years. I think they're very well respected by their teammates. And they are part of a team that's got open ears, guys that are willing to listen and be confronted in a positive way. And I think, I would certainly agree. And I think they've grown in that role as the season's gone on. And I think, when you're a senior and you're coming down the stretch, you understand how important every play is because you've lost games over the course of a 4-year career where it's literally come down to one play. And I talk about that all the time, and I talk about it not just in games, but off the floor, of doing the little things right. Just make doing the little things right a habit in your life. And then, you'll take care of those same things, not only in practice every day in your preparation, but most importantly, when the game's on the line.
Well, if there was one disappointment in the game, it would be the 18 turnovers, and we had a big turnover at the end that gave them a chance to tie the ball game. And I know that in a lot of ways we got some young guys trying to learn some things there. Getting a rebound and getting possession of it before you make the outlet pass. And, I think it was Ethan that made that turnover at the end. But at some point in time, I guess we still got to understand we still got a lot of young guys on the floor.
We do, and we haven't been in those situations a lot, so we have focused on that. We focused on that on Friday in the video room, and how those 18 turnovers occurred and what could we have done differently. You mentioned, we see, the frustrating thing is when we secure a defensive rebound and we're in such a hurry to make an outlet that we probably had 3 or 4 turnovers after we secured a defensive rebound. And if that happens in the first half, it's one thing. It's another thing when you have a 10-point lead with 4 minutes to play and you're still looking to make a quick outlet. Those are the ones that are really frustrating for me as a coach. And but I'll take blame for it because you know what? my poise as a coach and my ability to get our guys to understand we don't need to be in a hurry. We have to play slower. Our minds have to slow down. And I thought they kept us in a hurry. And that was really the crux of the 18 turnovers, to be honest, most of the game. I don't ever want to see turnovers were unforced, because there's a defensive team on the floor, and they have got an aggressive athletic group that has shown a great ability to turn people over all year long. Both games we've played against Lake Erie, we've had a fewer number of assists than what we're used to and a higher number of turnovers than what we're used to. And I think the only thing you could say is Lake Erie has something to do with that. I think it's showing us that at times we kind of put ourselves in bad positions. We dribble into bad spots. We're too aggressive in transition when we don't have numbers. And then you end up, having to pick up the ball in a bad spot. And now you're in a position where the defense has a big advantage and something bad could happen. So, we've got to get better. Lake Erie exposes those issues. Fortunately, we did enough other things well to win the game.
Yeah, big victory, 71-68, and it proved to be a big victory because, number one, they beat Hillsdale the next night. And so now with the loss of Hillsdale, you do have a 2-game lead in the loss column in the GMAC, and that's going to be crucial down the stretch. We got 3 or 4 GMAC games remaining, and that little help there, little bump is big.
Well, it's big because Walsh is right there too. They just have 2 losses, and there's a number of head-to-head matchups remaining. Obviously, we've got our own issues to deal with, but when you look across the board, I just feel like the league has a lot of parity, more so than even last year. We haven't seen Walsh since what seems like November. I don't even know what date it was when we played them. It certainly was at the very latest, early December. And they've been on a bit of a roll here lately. And so them and Hillsdale are right there behind us. Our guys have done a great job of just focusing at the task at hand. I'm not sure that we've done a lot of looking over our shoulder, but credit goes to our guys. When we looked at our schedule all year long, we noticed those 4 league games in a row on the road in February. Knew it would be very difficult. We're halfway through them. We got 2 to go, and we put ourselves in great position.
I do want to pause and talk about the 20 wins because as you walk in down the coach's office here, you see all the former great teams that are league champions, won 20 games, things like that. 17 out of 18 years, this Findlay program has won 20 games, and doing some check. I wasn't able to check every school in the region, but I'm pretty sure we're the only school that's done that, at least from what I can see. And that's a pretty big accomplishment to continue year after year winning 20 ball games.
I hope people, including myself, but really fans, people around the university, just people in general, pause and reflect on that, especially after the season's over with, maybe at our banquet, but even, just in any point in time. I mean, I think we're all very proud. Everyone that's been a part of that accomplishment, but I think sometimes the season ends, the game ends, win or lose, the season ends. Then the next question is, well, who are the next recruits? And you just don't have much time to reflect on how tough that is to do. It's very tough to do. These are a lot of good teams we're playing. We play a very challenging non-conference schedule every year. I don't remember a year where you wouldn't say, well, the non-conference schedule wasn't real strong. We've played, in my opinion, I'd like to see, I'd put our non-conference schedule over those 17, 18 years up against anyone else in the region and say, I'm not sure anyone over that same time period has played a tougher non-conference schedule than Findlay's played. So we've not only performed in the league, but we've performed out of the league. And a lot of guys, a lot of coaches, a lot of people collectively have been a part of that accomplishment.
Oilers now 20-3 on the season, 14-2 in the GMAC. And when we come back on Center Court, we'll talk about the challenging week ahead with Ohio Dominican and Ohio Valley on the home of the Oilers, 88.3 WLC.
Chances are there'll never be an emergency ever again. But just in case, let's talk about a plan.
Okay.
Who is going to grab the go bag?
What's a go bag?
It is a bag we do not have that is filled with things we really, really need in an emergency.
Guess we won't have to worry about it then.
Well, this is great. I am so glad that we don't have a plan.
I know.
Winging it is not an emergency plan. Make sure your kids know what to do during an emergency, who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hey everyone, let's all stop what we're doing and take a moment. You see? Every moment can be kind of special. But they could be loud moments, goofy moments, dorky moments, it doesn't matter. Because every time dads like us take a moment like that to spend with our kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's take a moment to make a moment. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
This message is for all of you sitting in the passenger seat. And apologies if it gets a little uncomfortable, but how does it feel to be at the mercy of someone who thinks a random text is more important than your life? Someone who takes their eyes off the road while speeding along in a 3-ton hunk of steel. Freaky, right? Well, why not just ask them to stop? Or better yet, volunteer to text for them. It might be a little awkward, but believe me, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Cross-court pass to Trey Smith. Trey from downtown got it.
Thursday night, your Oiler basketball teams head to Columbus to take on the Panthers from Ohio Dominican University.
Fricky line the lane, throw it up with the right hand, bucket's good. Dana Fricky.
Jason Granger will have all the action from Alumni Hall. Women's pregame at 5:10, tip-off at 5:30, men's game immediately following.
Aaron from downtown got it. The Moose is loose.
This is your home for Oiler basketball, 88.3 WLFC.
Welcome back to Center Court, and again talking with head coach Charlie Ernst. And coach, go back on the road, and just one game on Thursday last week, but this week 2 league games in Ohio Dominican and Ohio Valley, and certainly Ohio Valley much improved. That game's on Saturday. We won't talk too much about that, but a big game with ODU and a team where we've developed a little bit of a rivalry with. They beat us here at the GMAC tournament a year ago. That's kind of sparked things a little bit, but this is an outstanding team with guys that have been around for a long time.
Well, another opponent that when we played them earlier this year, it was a real war, and we were fortunate. We made plays down the stretch. The 7-point differential was probably deceiving, misleading, because we were down 1, I think, or tie game, down 1, I don't remember, with under 30 seconds to play, and we ended up winning by 7. But they've got a lot of veteran guys, a lot of guys that made big plays a year ago in that GMAC tournament game. So it's going to be a tough game. They've got 2 of the better wings in the league, and they've got one of the better big kids. And I think Hassan Varance has played some of his best games against us, even though we have a really good matchup for him. And he's done it mostly from the 3-point line. Not that he hasn't scored inside, but I think he's made more threes against us than probably anyone else he plays against all year. I'm not sure why that is, but we've got to do the job on him, and we got to do it and stay out of foul trouble. And then certainly we've got to defend their wing shooters, because both those guys can get hot and put their team on their backs.
And a team that I think like a lot of teams in this conference, that's set up well for the future as well. They have some seniors, but their top 2 scorers are juniors. And, Sam Hickey, and you mentioned Varance, and Hickey's a kid that I just feel like he's always got a chip on his shoulder when he plays Findlay, and he's put up some great games.
Well, he's a very good offensive player. I mean, he's a guy. Like others we've played, he doesn't need much space, and I think, and he's just a guy and he'll shoot it from deep, which means you have to get really extended when you play against him. So, another tough matchup for Trey, and I think it just shows you how important having a defender at that position is, because how many times this year have we talked about Trey having an important matchup? It seems like it gets talked about all the time. We talk about Gabe Kennard, we talk about Niego from Hillsdale, You talk about Shepard from Malone, and the list goes on. And here we are again talking about Sam Hickey, and we're talking about Trey Smith. So, but I also think that Ethan coming along on the defensive end is so important, and his ability to buy in. But I think this is another game where Anthony's progression as a defender is important, because Ryan Hoying has had a very good senior year. He's leading the GMAC in three-point shooting. So here we're talking about Hickey, but really Ryan Hoying's the one percentage-wise. The guy shot, I think, 110 threes this year, and he's made almost half of those, maybe half of them. So, he's provided kind of a cohort situation where it's when you put all your attention on Hickey, that's when Ryan Hoying's got the ability to go off for 20 of his own. So we've got our hands full guarding both of those guys, and we got to make sure that we have fresh and good matchups at all times.
And I think we played ODU early in the season, and you look at how their season's gone on. They've changed their starting lineup a little bit. They've changed their rotation since they're a little bit different team, and some of the guys out now that are getting a little bit more playing time have really stepped up.
Well, it's funny how that happens. It's happened for us. We're probably a great example of that. I mean, while our starting lineup has only changed a little bit at times, our rotation has changed the most in terms of how we play guys, who plays, and how much they play. I think Ohio Dominican is similar. They're the guys that, first of all, they've shortened the bench. When we played them early in the year, I think we had 10 or 11 guys on our scouting report that we prepared for. In recent games, they've mostly been a team like us playing 8 guys. And so they've shortened their bench. Some teams wait till about now to shorten their bench. They've shortened their bench kind of like we have after the first of the year, and they seem to be hitting their stride. They're a very dangerous offensive team.
Well, they're one of the best. They are the best three-point shooting team in the conference. But the thing that sticks out to me is their rebounding +9 on the year, and that's a big number. And they're not. When you look at the roster, they don't. It's not like they come out with Hillsdale with 6'8" and 6'9" guys. They're just very athletic. They're very physical, and they go to the glass hard.
Well, I think the part of that is Hassan Varance is a very good rebounder, and he does it consistently. I mean, I'd like to see his rebounding numbers per game, game by game, but rarely does he not get double-digit rebounds in a game. So that's number one. Number two, they play a tall point guard, regardless of who it is, whether it's Michael Scott, whether it's Taj Curry, Arius Jones. All three of those guys are in the 6'3" to 6'4" range, kind of in the build, of some point guards like a Ricardo Smith type point guard, that they've got good size, and anytime you have a point guard with that size, you're probably going to be a pretty good rebounding team from that standpoint. So they have been consistently good on the glass. My biggest concern is on the offensive boards. The defensive boards come from missed shots, but we've got to keep them off the offensive glass. They're going to be tough enough to guard. If we do a good job of finding their shooters within their sets, well, that's something we can prepare for. But if they're getting offensive rebounds and finding those guys stepping into threes, it's going to be a tough night.
And the thing that you get into, February is desperation mode for every team. We're desperate to keep the number one spot. Ohio Dominican's desperate to get a home game. They're, right there. They got 6 league losses. They're just 1 loss behind Cedarville to have that 4th spot and then host Cedarville instead of have to go to Cedarville. And then, there's teams up. Who knows how it ends up? But my point is that a lot to play for the Panthers.
Well, and Lake Erie's right there too. Now a couple of those teams obviously play each other. Coming down the stretch here, and so. Like I said earlier, it's so easy to start paying attention to the league standings, and this team's here and that team's there, and now it'll become even more distracting because we'll be talking about regional rankings here before long, and so I think that is such a the temptation is there to begin looking at all of those other things. And it's a temptation for all of us, not just the players, but the coaches, certainly the fans, supporters, administrators who are trying to prepare ahead of time. And in all of that preparation, sometimes what it ends up doing is being a bit of a distraction. So it's my job to try to keep our teams focused on the next game in front of us. Because when we've done that this year, my hat's off to our players. We have done a great job of focusing. You mentioned leadership and the leadership on this team. I think they have a big thing to do with that. We have played well on the road, and a lot of that's focus. It's focus on scouting report. It's focus in practice. It's not looking about, well, this team plays that team and what happens if they win or lose. So if we can continue down that path, I like where we could be at the end.
So Thursday we head down to Columbus to play Ohio Dominican, and then Saturday got to turn back, go down just into West Virginia and play Ohio Valley, and a team that has 9 wins this season, and that's a big improvement from a year before, and a lot of those players are back from that team. They've been better at home. They have 6 wins at home, and I'm sure that they feel that they've had a good start to their season, and would love nothing better to find some way to have a big finale towards the end of the year.
Well, I think first and foremost, they're better. They're a better team this year than what they were a year ago. They have played. Now they did not have a great day when they came to Findlay earlier this year, but if you go back and if anyone wants to question that, go look at their schedule and look what they've done this year, and they've been a tough team at home. And the reality is we struggled last year to beat them on their home floor, and their team last year wasn't as good as the one they have this year. So we know that's not going to be an easy game, and I don't think we've gone into any of our opponents this year thinking that. When you look at the standings, when we went to Trevecca and we went to Davis and Elkins, I thought our guys were ready to play, and those were teams that were down near the bottom of the conference standings. And I truly believe that our guys understand that winning on the road is a tough task in this league, and we need to be ready to play, and I'm sure we will, because they have some unflappable offensive type players. They run a dribble drive, they want to spread you out, they want to play iso ball, and it's worked pretty well for them, especially when they play at home. They're going to shoot the ball better at home than they shot it here. We did a good job of defending them here, but it'll be a much bigger task going on the road. Very different. I think our guys know that.
A big test this week, Ohio Dominican Thursday, then Ohio Valley on Saturday. Coach, best of luck.
All right. Thanks, Jason.
That's head coach Charlie Ernst. Want to invite all our fans who can't make the trip down to Columbus. Listen live on 88.3 WLFC. We'll have all the action pregame starting at 5:10 for the ladies, and the men immediately following the women's broadcast. For Charlie Ernst, I'm Jason Granger. You've been listening to Center Court.
Tommy, left side, little stutter step, driving the lane, scoop the hoop, left hand, got it again.
Thank you for listening to Center Court with Charlie
Once
Ernst.
the screen, he'll go the other way, find A.O. Aaron from downtown, got it. The moose is loose.
Join us every Tuesday night during the season for your connection to Coach Ernst and Oiler men's basketball.
Oilers win it, and what a game here in Troy, and a tremendous victory for the orange and black.
This is your home for Oiler men's basketball, 88.3 WLFC.